let's face it, focus seems to be a lost art. So the question becomes, why, how did we lose focus? Why did we lose it? And how do we get it back? And I think that's such a broad question. But when it comes to the agile workspace, one of the things I've discovered is that people have some key factors that contribute to them losing focus. And I think that let's start with the root cause. So let's start with the very basics. So there are five main forces that shape today's society that force us to lose focus, that force us to deviate from where we should be. The first one is speed. Today, everything we need is fast. We want it faster than we had it yesterday. We're bombarded by increasing speed and the amount of information that comes out to us. What makes us feel connected to the world around us. But we never have the ability to learn everything about any topic at that speed. So what ends up happening is we skim for information and do the best we can, and we sacrifice depth in all dimensions in order to get a cross breadth of information across different platforms, which is really interesting. And what does this do? It leads to multitasking, which is not a real thing. So it leads to us doing context switching, where we're trying to take on too many things at one time and we're not honoring WIP limits. When this happens, we end up with the switch cost effect, which is huge, right? That's just a large amount of money. What I call the screw up effect, which is how many mistakes you make as quality suffers. And the last one is what I like to dub creativity drain. If you spend your time just context switching a lot, going back and forth, evidence suggests that you're going to be slower, you'll make more mistakes, and you'll be less creative. So it's a mess. It's a nightmare. And that's the number one thing. Coming at number two is technology, believe it or not. It shouldn't be surprising that social media is detrimental to our attention span. It just is. Every site and every platform is carefully designed and curated to make sure that we end up in eternal scroll, infinity scroll, right? It wants us to stay on there for as long as we can. Just scroll, 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 scroll. And by doing so, it optimizes our opportunity to come across negativity, to come across things that bring us down, to affect our personal triggers. It's just, there's a lot there. And there's no site that I've found yet that has infinity scroll of positive information. I just haven't found one of those yet. Well, I guess my podcast has, well, never mind. There's just a bunch of episodes that are all positive. But the point I'm trying to make is it's hard to find a place where you can infinitely scroll and get good information. We want to we crave fresh, immediate rewards. We want to see things now. And the faster we switch, the better opportunity we have to get on that. And of course, the site that's known for doing this best is TikTok. The average TikTok video, or the ideal length for a TikTok video, you ready for this? Is anywhere from 21 to 34 seconds. Anything longer than that, users say they found it stressful. 21 to 34 seconds. Has our attention span really gone that far? Let's go to number three. Stress and vigilance. A poll conducted by YouGov found the number one reason people attributed to their loss of attention was not their phones, but stress. Stress was chosen by 48%. Why does stress play a key role? Well, it's actually simple. Stress directly impacts all the other areas of our life, like sleep and eating habits, which have a physiological impact on our ability to pay attention. So not feeling safe and being in a constant state of vigilance hinders our ability to pay attention. When we feel like we're in danger, our focus is dedicated to detect any signs of danger in the environment around us. It can be encountering a grizzly bear during a Sunday walk in the woods. But oftentimes it's not that extreme. It's anything that, it's the man is out to get me mentality. And I think that we need to get back that focus somehow. Coming at number four is just pure physical and mental exhaustion. And that refers to the one we were just now talking about. Did you know that 40% of Americans are chronically sleep deprived? That means they get 6 hours or less of sleep per night. 40%. 4 out of 10 people out there on the road right now driving have only had 6 hours of sleep or less. It makes you not want to drive anymore. But as we become tired, our attention shrinks. We fall into a state called local sleep, where part of our brain is awake, part of our brain is asleep. And in this rate, we think we're alert, responsive, and mentally capable, but we really aren't. This is to the detriment of our ability to focus and our ability to do things correctly. And then number 5 is the modern diet of pollution, as I like to call it. We're all in this pattern of disrupting our bodies with energy spikes, whether it's energy drinks, eating a lot of sugar. It causes an immediate energy spike and a subsequent crash, which drags you down and just destroys your ability to focus. Lack of proper nutrients, eating complex and processed foods to try to make up for the lack of nutrients with capsules and pills and other things. This doesn't provide the necessary nutrients to our brain to help us fully function the way that we should. And finally, chemicals and additives, food dyes and other additives, it becomes like a brain fog to us. It's like a drug. It helps us to not be able to focus. So the number one takeaway in all of this is don't condemn yourself. It's not your fault, but rather it's a much bigger societal problem. It's not anything specifically that you did wrong. It stems from the modern way that we live. It stems from what we're trying to do. So we need to take a few steps, put a framework in place, if you will, that are going to help us make sure we understand what works better for us and guides us in a way that we're not going to wind up down that hole. First and foremost, we need to understand and measure the impact of our loss of focus. Take note for one day. Track how much time distraction costs you. When I say time distraction, it means keep track of things like the time you spend on social media and the time you distract yourself in other ways, like switching tasks, opening other apps, switching to email, etc. The time it takes to fully get back to the original task that you got to before you got distracted. So that is a huge one because most people don't understand the cost of distraction. And if they understood the cost of distraction, the cost of context switching, they wouldn't be doing it. Number 2 is tackle the big issues first. So identify among stress, exhaustion, a bad diet, which issues affect you the most. And is there something that's weighing on your mind? Are you chronically sleep deprived? Ask these questions. Is your diet sugar rich and nutrient poor? When you understand what big issues are for you, tackling those is going to help your ability to empower you to change and do things differently. Next, you need to understand your triggers and how to block them. Now, this is probably the hardest one. But the main triggers that make you lose focus is usually a combination of context and external impulse, notifications from Slack, visual distractions, plus your mental state of tiredness. By the end of the day, you're just like, I'm not in it anymore. I'm not interested. There are infinite tools and strategies out there to help you understand this. But a lot of times I stick with the simple things. So here's one that I do all the time. I set a timer before starting a task, something online, especially if it's something that I find difficult. Because if I can do the Pomodoro technique for focus, limit myself 25 minutes, take a 5-minute break, set a time frame to concentrate, followed by a time that's dedicated to a break. That's going to help you know that you can live in this pattern and it's going to encourage you to be more healthy. Block specific apps and websites on every device that you have. Notifications that drag you to your phone are the first half of the problem. For me, I keep the applications, but I get rid of all the notifications. I don't get notified of just about anything, which is pretty interesting. Because you'd think as a busy CEO I'd want to be, but I don't. I limit distractions and notifications. I've even gone as far as to say, if a telephone number comes in from an unknown number or from someone who's hiding, trying to be private, I disregard those as well. I let it go straight to my voicemail. And people are like, well, isn't that going to kill your business? And the answer is no. It actually helps me be more productive and helps me be more focused. Put your phone away. That's another one. When I'm working, I have my phone here and it's charging, but it's turned over upside down and away from me, out of reach. This way I'm not constantly going back trying to take a look at it. Some people even go as far as to buy a safe to lock their phone up while they're trying to focus. And if you find that you're in that position where you just can't do it, you keep touching your phone, put it in a safe, lock it up. You'd be surprised how much more productive you could be if you do. Train your mind to slow down and be free to wonder. So fight speed. Engage in more slow activities like reading a book or practicing yoga or meditation, my favorite. This forces your mind to slow down and concentrate more deeply on a single thing. Thus, it reduces your crave for dopamine and it gets you off of scrolling Instagram, right? And I'm not just picking on Instagram. You get the point. I picked on TikTok earlier. But yeah, so regaining the focus is part of, letting your mind wander a little bit and looking for the benefits of fighting the need to always be busy. You don't always need to be busy. I hear so many people say, "Oh, but if we're not doing something," oh my goodness, stop, right? If you don't let your mind have a little bit of creativity, you're not going to be able to focus when the time is at hand. So for me, that means understanding the needs that you have, understanding what struggles you have, and making sure that you limit the amount of things you're trying to do. It was Mr. Wonderful who said one of the things that he does, one of the tools that he uses, is he puts 3 sticky notes on his mirror every night before he goes to bed, and he does nothing that next day until he gets those 3 sticky notes done. And some of them could be simple things, but what he says is if you do that, it's going to help you regain your focus. It's going to teach you discipline, that there's certain things that you have to do before you reward yourself with the time not to focus. And part of that is, don't pick up your phone. Don't go into eternal scroll. And if you can get those things back to where they need to be, it's going to help you do better at life. That's going to do it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have a topic you want us to talk about, learn more at AgileDad.com. We'd love to hear from you. As always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Do take care.